Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about astrology, human design, and the gene keys. I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. It was certainly a beautiful weekend here where I live. I hope it was that way for everyone as spring takes hold here in the Northern Hemisphere. And hopefully it's early fall for you all in the Southern Hemisphere and you're still having some nice weather. It was a beautiful weekend to get out and about, and yet I was indoors doing a whole lot of writing. The nice thing is I could go outdoors, enjoy it for a while, come back in, finish what I was doing, then go back outside. So it worked out quite nicely for me, at least for the weekend. And during the weekend, I was able to experience quite a number of different webinars and so forth. I would just put my headset on outside and listen in to what was going on. So it was actually quite nice to be able to do that. Good morning to everybody that's just joining us. I have Debbie Hedden. Good morning. Natasha. Good morning. Debbie Tibbetts-Tumiel. Good morning. Natasha says, please, heart. And Mimi, always happy to volunteer. Oh, you guys read what I put out there in the morning. That is so good to know. Sometimes I just type in a bunch of stuff and then I go plop it out there, never knowing if anybody is actually taking a look and seeing. So for the short term, what I did is I pulled up Debbie Tibbetts-Tumiel's chart because I knew she would say yes. And so we'll take a look at her chart. We may take a look at other people's charts too. My purpose in doing that today is to be able to engage you all in what it is that you're seeing in a chart. Not that I want to read Debbie's chart, although, I can't help it if it's there, I might say something about it. But because I realized the other day and that many of you don't really have a clear understanding of what it is I'm talking about each day when it comes to the transits, or it comes to how a house is set up, or what I mean when I say, look to your chart in wherever Aries is, let's say, because I find out that you guys don't really even know where that is for yourselves. And so today I'm hoping to spend some time showing you a chart, orienting you to a chart. And I should have added to that this morning for you all to have your own personal charts in front of you. If you happen to have them close by, grab them. You may want them. You have some time because I want to talk about another couple of things first before I get to that. So let's see who's joining us now. Debbie says yes, LOL. Good, Debbie. I knew I could count on you. Patricia, good morning, everyone. Colleen, good morning. And Rebecca, good morning. So we have, I think, the gang with us. So let's just dive in a little bit. Of course, happy Monday. We're starting the whole week again, and we get an opportunity this week to experience the new moon. This week, not until the 5th. Oh, yeah, I did change my calendar. Woohoo! I'm up on things this week or this month. The new moon occurs on Friday, and it is in the sign of Aries. This might be what you say is the new moon of action that actually takes us into, kind of marries that energy of the sun in Aries, the energy of beginnings, and with the new moon that really represents beginnings. And here we put them together and we're able to take steps forward. And it all by all standards, the new moon on Friday will be a very good one. There's only one little blip along the screen. We'll talk a little bit more about that, especially as we get closer to that end of the week. I will not be with you on Friday. Friday morning, my plane leaves at 6:15 in the morning for Florida, where I'm going to meet up with Debbie, and we'll head out to our cruise for next week. So next week, what I'm going to do is I won't be on air because I can't do that from the ship. And so what I'm going to do is set up some dripping content to come out on Facebook, the Living Astrology Facebook page, to keep you guys updated on what's going on astrologically for the week. So rather than my voice or my videos, you're going to have my words in writing. So take a look for that. There'll be, little chunks of information for you. All right, so today the moon is in Pisces at 7:49 my time, 10:49 your time on the East Coast. The moon moved out of Aquarius, where it spent the entire weekend, and into the sign of Pisces. And now the energy shifts to being one of more intuitive, spiritual, compassionate, loving sort of energy. This is the beginning of 3 days, or is it 3 days now? 1, 2, yeah, 3 days or so of the moon in Pisces. And today, the moon in Pisces is squaring Mars. Remember, Mars has just moved into Gemini, did that over the weekend. So it's in the very early degrees of Gemini, and the moon in early degrees of Pisces now is in a square, a 90-degree relationship to one another. That can make for some irritation today, up and down sort of irritation. Nothing major, nothing big. The moon moves fast enough that it isn't going to color the whole day. You might have some challenges that crop up, nothing to be overly concerned with. Oh, by the way, happy April Fool's Day. I just realized that. I forgot that it is April Fool's Day. And I actually, in my blog post this weekend, wrote a little bit about that holiday. It's holiday. It is sort of a holiday. Did you know what the origins were of April Fool's Day? I had no idea. I had no idea that it was linked to the time in history where the Julian calendar gave way to the Gregorian calendar. And when we moved from the Julian to the Gregorian, that is when they arbitrarily placed New Year on January 1, where in earlier days in the Julian calendar, it was April 1. And so people who were still celebrating the New Year on April 1st were called fools, right? Because it was no longer appropriate to celebrate the New Year on April 1 because we had shifted to the Gregorian calendar arbitrarily to April or to January 1. So it's kind of an interesting holiday. And of course, throughout history, it has other connotations and so forth. The best way to look at this, for example, is to go to, I think I found it on Wikipedia. Do a search for April Fool's Day if you want more information. And I think it was on Wikipedia that had a bunch of other listings about the holiday or the day on the calendar and what it means. So mostly the day is mild. There isn't a whole lot of energy around that irritation. If so, it might be earlier in the day and then wanes. Now, the moon is also in a sextile, a 60-degree relationship with Uranus today. And, Uranus is a planet of surprises, upsets, things you don't expect. And the moon in Pisces might bring some spiritual revelations or ahas. Every surprise or unexpected thing that Uranus brings doesn't have to be something bad or challenging. It could be something really good, something really eye-opening, something that sets you on a path forward in a way that you hadn't been able to do before. And so in that, it could be really positive. It could be connections that you make, right, in your mind that suddenly it's like, wow, why didn't I see that before? Or, I could have had a V8 kind of ahas. So when you have that kind of a day, take advantage of it, stay open to it. And even if it isn't something that's a surprise that you really, or something unexpected that you don't think of as positive, be okay with it, right? Be okay and accepting of that and just move on with your day, right? You don't want to let it take you out for the week or for Mondays, they're kind of scritchy anyway. Right, we're getting back into the swing of things after a weekend off. Some of you are in the schools, have spring break this week, right? So you're out of your normal sync, right? You're out of your normal way of doing things. So take advantage of that. Maybe you can have some surprising things happen for you in the space that would normally be your job. Today, maybe the space brings surprises. All right, today then also, and it won't be likely until later in the day, the moon will begin to move into a conjunction with Venus. Venus, remember, in Pisces, Venus is at 11 degrees. So I really wonder if it's even something that might bleed into tomorrow. And if that's the case, then we have maybe 2 days where we could really think of Venus and Pisces, which are energies that I always think of as loving energies. Venus representing the love of the physical world, the ability to love your child, to have relationships that are loving and generous and kind. But Neptune is representing unconditional love. So it's the love that we extend in a way where it has no rules, right? It has nothing, no conditions upon it. Unconditional love. So it is the higher expression of love energy. So when you bring those two together, the two energies together, Pisces ruled by Neptune and Venus in Neptune's domicile, you bring them together and you have extraordinary outpouring of loving energy potential today. Now, in my blog post this week, I also talk about where Venus has moved in terms of human design. So let me show you a human design chart. This is today's chart. Over here, I'm going to hide my face for a minute. And you'll see over here in the orange, note that anybody born today, or at least in the early part of today, is born with reflector, right? Debbie Hedden, you'll recognize this chart. It's completely blank, no defined centers. The rarest of types, the reflector. So today, Venus is sitting at the gate 37, which is on the emotional solar plexus. It is the energy of harmony or equality. And I thought this morning that I would share with you, again, I'm really loving Rosie Aronson's deck of the Wisdom Keeper's Inner Guidebook. And I love sharing the stories of these cards in here. So I am, again, if you guys will indulge me, going to share the gate 37, the story and her wisdom story and the gift to you. Here is the card. Move it in here. I'm in a different program this morning. So there we go. Isn't she beautiful? Look at all of those markings on her face. And it is the card of equality, 37. Look at the peace symbol on her throat center, right? She's maybe a flower child supreme. She's gorgeous. Okay. So her story, and this is the story for all of us to connect to in some way, shape, or form in your own lives, okay? It may not be exactly like this. This is a story. But the card's general energy is from the point of view of the human heart. All humanity is one family. So here's the wisdom story. Though I was born into a girl's body, I always felt like a boy deep down. My family was conventional. My father worked, my mother took care of the children, and was completely dependent on him financially. He often treated her disrespectfully and with cruelty, as if she were weak, overly sentimental, and only nice to look at. As I got older, I saw men like him ruling the world, so I rejected my father, the patriarchy, as well as the boy in me. In absolute solidarity with my mother, I would be a girl, no matter how painful or wrong it felt within. Without realizing it, I spent the following years using every masculine muscle I had to idealize and fight for all things feminine. I envisioned and worked for a world where women were the leaders. I became an activist and speaker, empowering women worldwide with my ideals. I also became financially independent and bartered with the big boys for rights and privileges on behalf of women everywhere. Privately, though, I was an emotional wreck. I alienated my romantic partners constantly with unfair and cruel accusations and an insatiable need for emotional processing. The truth was that deep down I was fighting for one thing: acceptance. But I couldn't even give that to myself. I was too weak to share, much less own, how I felt inside or how I wanted to live my life. I had zero trust that my romantic partners would still love me as a man. No trust that the world would ever accept a freak like me. I was convinced that if my feminist community discovered how I really felt inside, they'd no longer see me as a leader, but as an outsider, maybe even an enemy. With the pain of hiding from myself was too great, I decided to drive to a transgender support group in a town where I'd never be recognized. I sat in the back of the room and just listened. My own story was told over and over again by different people. Because of their courage, I found myself, my pain, longing, loneliness, and overwhelming fear. At the end of the meeting, someone came up to me. To my shock, it was someone I knew. I expected an attack, but instead, I was given the most tender embrace. In that moment, I knew I'd find my way back to me, and then I wouldn't have to do it alone. So her gift to us: I am your friend. I have deep respect for you. I don't want you to change who you are at your core. You are completely unique, worthy. You are a completely unique, worthy being, and there is a place for you in the world of ours. I see you with deep tenderness. It is time to take your place with pride, humility, and profound self acceptance. When you look at yourself, see your weakness and vulnerability as your strengths. When you look out at the world, see beyond polarities, beyond gender stereotypes, beyond patriarchy and matriarchy. Aim your eye towards synthesis, to the entire continuum of beauty available to all of us. Equality is your birthright. You and me, we are family. So that's what we have today for Venus sitting at 11 degrees of Pisces, but also at the gate 37 for the next several days. So likely we are going to see things like this in the news, where maybe they're talking about transgender rights or taking them away, or any number of things to do with equality. What's really big in the news right now is the immigrant camp that was parked underneath a bridge and overpass in El Paso, Texas. And, where we are not only marginalizing people by gender, but also by race. So it is a call for all of us to recognize how we are alike and not how it is that we are different. Doesn't matter what color our skin is, doesn't matter, what sex you identify with, because we all have the birthright of equality. So that's the focus of Venus for the next few days. Let's see, how's everybody doing with that information? Any questions? Anybody recognizing themselves in any of that? Good morning, Lynn Goldberg. Good morning, Willa. Nice to see you, Linda. Good for you. She says, I made it again. It's easier to make it these days. I even noticed this morning I woke up at 6:15 and it was already sort of getting light again. I like that. Mimi says, I always keep my link to Astrodigest handy to see my chart with the transits. Good one. Good one. Good one. So I just wanted to share one more thing about Venus at gate 37. The gate 37, if we look at it holographically, and holographically then should immediately trigger for you that I'm going to talk about the gene keys, right? Rosie in her books and in her cards, she really is a part of the gene keys. And she arranges her book and her cards with that in mind. So we have the three levels, right? If we're looking at a gate in human design, it is just one level. If we're looking at the gate through the gene keys, we're seeing it holographically. So we're seeing it through a shadow, through a gift, and through the Siddhic state or Siddhi, which is the highest expression of it. So it's a hologram in that many of us, we have the potential to express it in all levels. The shadow here is weak or weakness. And where, let's, in the example in this story where the man, the husband or the father saw the wife or the mother as weak, that is a shadow energy. None of us has weakness. Weakness isn't necessarily a reason why men should be in power over women, kind of thing. The gift is equality. We're all equal. We all have different gifts. We all have different things that we can apply to the world to make it better, right? If we were all the same, it would be so boring, right? And we wouldn't have a whole. But with the 7.5 or so billion people on the planet, we have a whole. And if we start resonating as the whole in equality, we could change the way the world works. In the highest expression, it is tenderness. And you might have noticed that word was focused on a bit in the story. Tenderness, meaning how we can greet each other with a loving heart, with peace in our heart, and in acceptance of one another. That's what the highest expression in this gate energy is. Now, because the gate sits on the emotional center, this may be an energy that you have to connect with clarity over time, right? It's not something that you just get viscerally. It's not something that you can get to from the mind. It's something that you get to from the emotions, from the deeper truths hidden in the emotional connections that we share with one another. Okay. Let's see. Anybody have questions about that? No? Good, 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 good. So I am going to, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to tell you about for the week. Tomorrow I'll be on air. I can tell you about tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, there are some other big things going on this week. I may or may not address those. I address those for those of you who are members and listened to the April webinar. So if you're new to my membership, and some of you did join just after I did the April webinar, go into the Teachable platform, into my Living Astrology Academy, and you can catch the April webinar. I uploaded it directly to the site so you can watch the webinar. And I also uploaded the ebook that came along with it for April, as well as the slides. So there you go. You have access to it if you've just joined the membership group. And here's my 1-minute ad. If you have not joined the membership group, why not? It's only $13 a month. And in that, you get access to monthly webinars. I have courses coming out. I'm dripping content for one of them. When I get back, I'm going to upload the other one that is free for you as members. I have another exciting thing coming up. I'm hoping to do it this week before I leave, for those of you who want to know more about what light you're carrying. And there's the Living Astrology Academy Forum. Once a month, we meet through Zoom, where you bring your charts, whether it's human design, the gene keys, or your astrology chart, and you bring me your questions. Last month, Rebecca got me all to herself, right? Take advantage, call in, or you don't have to call in. You click a link and it opens up, and we get to talk face to face about your chart, your questions, your problems, etc., that are happening for you, the challenges and opportunities. There is also opportunities to connect with me in the Living Astrology private Facebook group. And that's been underutilized because I've had some other things going on, but it is where I keep people abreast of what is happening. If you are new to the membership group, you were sent an invitation in Facebook to join that group. So please look for that if you haven't. I think you would find it right under the little world tab, where all your notifications are. And let's see what else is in there. Different offers and events and things like that. So, all right, that's the end of that ad. Now, I have to get better at doing self-promotion, so that's why I did that. It's too funny. It's so uncomfortable for me. Now, I am going to share my desktop screen, and I'm going to bring up Debbie's chart. Thank you so much, Debbie, and any of you who are willing to be participants in this. Now, quickly, if I'm going to focus on this chart, I'm not going to be able to see you all in your chat. So quickly, I'm going to go back to the chat window, and I want you all to tell me if you are seeing this chart. Where's my Be Live window? I'm going to back out. Oh, wait, no, you're not, because I have to put it to the broadcast. No, there's no sound. I'm going to hide me. Wow. Well, okay. So you guys can kind of see that, but not as good. So I'm going to switch screens. Hold on here. I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to add something else. Stop sharing that. And I'm going to share an actual Chrome tab. There. And let me go back to Be Live and put that up to the broadcast. And I'm going to make it solo. All righty. So now, somebody out there, let me know if you can see this chart. Hello, hello. Just say, yes, I see it. And I'm going to go then from this screen, I'm going to go back to the actual screen. So I just need to know, somebody say, yes, I see it. Is anybody out there? Is anybody out there? Yes. Awesome. Okay, thank you, Natasha and Rebecca. Okay, so I'm going to go to the actual chart here and talk. So if I look like I'm looking down at something, it's because I am. So what you are seeing is what is called a transit chart. It is a transit chart because it's showing two pieces of information. It is showing on the inner wheel here all of the planets and points that I use anyway in an astrology reading in Debbie's birth chart. This is the natal energy right here. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse moving around, but if you see my mouse moving around, it is because I'm showing you these are all the planets and points and where they were when Debbie was born. Snapshot of the sky at that moment. Now, the way the chart is oriented is everything begins here at the AC. The letters AC stand for ascendant. You might also have heard me call it the rising sign. But this is the starting point, the entry, right? This is the sign that would have been on the eastern horizon at the time Debbie was born. And then everything in the chart moves around counterclockwise, right, through the chart. And you'll see in between this inner wheel and this outer wheel, here are all of the astrological signs. Now, I didn't have the time this morning to type them in here and tell you what they are. But for instance, if you recognize the symbols, this is the sign of Sagittarius. So Debbie was born with her rising sign in Sagittarius. And right here, just under those letters AC, you're going to get the degree of Sagittarius that she was born at, or the degree of whatever sign it is that you were personally born at. So she was born at 6 degrees. It looks like 3 minutes of Sagittarius. Now, why is that important? Well, how many times have you guys heard me say the moon is in Sagittarius today in the early degrees? Right? Or maybe I say it is at the that 3 degrees of Sagittarius, or there's a planet sitting at a certain degree. Well, in Debbie's chart, then that should alert her right away that something is going on right here in her chart because she has Sagittarius in the first house. And I'll explain that in a minute. Or Sagittarius in the rise or on the rise of her chart. Now, you may notice this chart is divided up into these pie-shaped pieces. The pie-shaped pieces are called houses, right? And every house has a number, and the numbers are over here in the center, right around the center circle, which actually represents the earth, you actually on the earth. So you see here, this is the first house. So we enter in with the sign that is on the horizon, the eastern horizon when you're born, and everybody is, no matter where you're born on earth, whatever sign is on the eastern horizon when you were born becomes your rising sign or ascendant. And it is the opener, the gateway or portal into the first house of YOU. It is the house called the I Am. And so you can see this house lasts for, let's see, well, 24 degrees of, because there's 30 degrees in each sign. So she's got about 24 degrees of Sagittarius in her first house. And then another 8 degrees, it looks like maybe, of her first house in Capricorn. This is the next sign over. So the signs proceed around counterclockwise, and so do the houses. The next house line begins right here and takes up this much space. This is the second house. And then we have the third house, the fourth house, the fifth house, etc., all the way around the chart, back to the 12th house. And each house has a meaning. And the houses are the where. So the where is the action in my life taking place. So I'm going to just take a look at Debbie's houses right now because the moon is in Pisces today. So where is Pisces in Debbie's chart? Well, if I go around, we have Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius. Aha, here's Pisces. So I can see today the moon is lagging here because I didn't actually set the time on this one to the exact time that we're in right now. But the moon is technically right here in very early Pisces, like 1 or 2 degrees at the moment. And then you'll also see that we have Venus there. We have the planet Mercury there and the planet Neptune. They're in a conjunction today. You see that? They're both on top of one another. By the way, I didn't say this. I'm so sorry. So here in the center wheel are the natal planets, where they were when she was born. On the outer wheel, right outside here, are the planets and where they are today. Again, a snapshot of the moment I drew up Debbie's chart this morning, which was just before we went on air. So about 40 minutes ago, 35 minutes ago, maybe. So here we have the setup of where the planets were at the moment that I drew up the chart for her. So Pisces for her happens to sit mostly in a house that has no planets in it by birth. So even though there isn't much going on there, we could say, okay, she still has a third house. There may be a lot of communication going on. There may be a lot of phone calls or a lot of getting online and doing things. There may be a lot of paperwork things that she's dealing with. And that would be why, because today the moon in Pisces is triggering what's going on in her third house. Now, for you all, it might be in a completely different house. If I pulled up my chart, Pisces is over here on the eighth house. So I'm in the midst of a transformation, that would mean. And that would make total sense because I'm transforming my business at the moment and moving through some very big things. Today's another level of that for me in my chart. Wherever it is in your chart, let's say you have it going on in your 10th house. There may be something going on in terms of your career or profession that you have to intuitively connect with, or maybe that you are having to have, maybe you'll have some kind of new communication coming in because Neptune is conjunct Mercury today, and you will have something new coming up in your career. All right. So now inside this middle, you see all these lines. I don't want you guys to get bogged down by the lines. I could just as easily have taken out those lines when I put this chart up. I like the lines because they tell me how all of the planets in her birth chart are playing together, or aren't they, right? The red ones would suggest opportunities for challenges, and the blue lines would represent the gifts or the skills that she has to overcome said challenges. And so that to me makes sense. But for you as a novice, for you as someone just learning all of this, don't let those lines distract you, right? Don't worry about them so much. It's showing the relationship between each of those planets from her birth chart. It is up to me as the astrologer then to take the planets that are out here and to look at them and see how it is that those planets apply to the planets inside the chart. So let's take a look here. I'm going to find something. Ah, here it is. This is what I've been watching in Debbie's chart for her, is that here's the planet Uranus. And Uranus is just at 1 degree. Where is Uranus today? 1 degree, 17 minutes of Taurus. So here's Uranus transiting through Debbie's fifth house of love, romance, play, joy, excitement, pleasure, vacations, risk taking, etc. And I've been watching this because her sun is at 3 degrees of Taurus. And that means that Uranus at 1 degree of Taurus is applying pressure to her sun. So we've been watching this actually because I don't know, to me, I'm thinking love is in the air, right? I'm thinking relationship is in the air. I'm thinking something fun and exciting is happening in her life, finally, right? And Uranus is here for the first time in her life. It has never been here before. It takes 84 years for this planet to go completely around her chart. So what is happening now and getting ready to happen, as Uranus inches closer, is something that's not ever happened in her life before. It'll be exciting. It might be revolutionary. It may be a complete rebellion where she throws up her hands and says, I'm done with all of that and I'm going over here. Right? I'm going this direction. So I'm excited to be on a ship with you, Debbie, for the next 8 days next week to see, because we're inching ever closer to Uranus being actually conjunct her sun. And so planets keep moving through. And at times, you're going to find, like Debbie has 2 of them here, houses that have no planets in them by her birth or by your birth. That doesn't mean you have nothing going on there. It doesn't mean that at all, because each one of these houses has a planet that holds rulership over it. So for instance, Sagittarius here, well, let's take this house because this one's empty. This is the 12th house of the hidden, of prisons, limitations, fears, subconscious patterns buried deep that are running the show, right? That you have to gain access to at some point in your life. And this 12th house is empty for her. So there aren't planets in here that are changing fundamentally the expression of the energy. So we look to the sign that sits on the cusp of this house. A cusp is just the dividing line. And if you're watching my mouse here, the dividing line here is about in mid Scorpio. Scorpio's rulers are both Mars and Pluto. So we could look to see where Mars and Pluto are in her chart or in the transits to kind of get an idea of what might be affecting her 12th house. Again, this is just a quick overview. I don't want you to get bogged down in it and feel like you're not understanding what I'm saying. I can certainly answer your questions if you want to put them in the chat. But I just want people to understand your chart is made up of lots of moving pieces. And for me to be able to sit here in the morning and say, hey, the moon is in Pisces and it is transiting, through that sign for the next 3 days, you immediately should be asking yourself, well, where is it going to affect me personally? And the way to do that is to get a reading or to be able to know your own chart well enough to say, okay, that means it's going through my 8th house. So transformation is up on deck this week, right? I hope that's helping everybody. So let's review. This in the middle is the natal chart, where all the planets were when she was born. On the outer wheel here, where you see these planets in green, that is where they are today, at the moment I drew up the chart. And in between the inner wheel and the outer wheel are the zodiac signs. So if we're looking for Pisces, here's Pisces. And the moon in Pisces today, that means for the next 3 days, Debbie has the moon moving through this part of her chart. And the rising sign is the entry point into the chart. The rising sign, or the AC, which represents ascendant. It's a Latin word, I believe it is, or Greek word, I'm not sure, Latin for ascendant. And the houses begin here at the first house. This dividing line is the entryway into the first house. They are these pie-shaped pieces. They tell us where the action is taking place in a chart. And they are numbered here in the very center of the wheel. The very center of the wheel, because this represents you sitting on the blue planet Earth. Okay? Now, all of these different symbols, some of you might recognize them and some of you may not. So I'm going to scroll down here and hopefully you guys can see this. Can I scroll down any further? I cannot. Let me see if I can make this bigger and then scroll down further. Down here, underneath the wheel, there are 2 grids here, and these grids hold some interesting information. And I don't want to confuse you, but if you need to know what the symbols are, you can just go down the list here. That symbol is the true node, i.e. north node. So here's where Debbie's north node is by birth. And look, the south node is coming up to her north node. The south node, the descending node, is also what they call it. So you'll see the north node is true node or north node, and the descending true node is the south node. Just different words for the same thing. And you can see the symbols and what they mean. So the sun is the circle with a little dot in it. Where's the sun in her chart? It's right here. And then you can see if you move over to the right, this is the natal position of all of those pieces. And if you've pulled up a transit chart, you'll see where the position is today of all of those pieces. This grid tells you what the relationship is between the chart, the pieces in the natal chart. So if you look at this, the sun, and then if you go down the row here, this is all of the contacts it's making. If you follow over to the right, you see the planet that it's making the contact with. So let's just do this one. The sun is in a trine to the moon. Again, I don't want to get too sticky icky here, but these are just telling you the relationships. So the lines tell me the relationships, but then here it tells me more specifically, what does that blue line mean? Oh, it's a trine. Okay. And this grid over here tells us what qualities the planets are located in. Are they in fire, air, earth, or water? And are they cardinal, fixed, or mutable? It just tells me more about the planets in her chart. Or if you're looking at it for yourself, it tells you the energy of the planets in your own chart. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for a minute and take a look and see if anybody has questions. Good morning, April. Good to see you this morning. Debbie, can't wait You and me both can't imagine what it could be. Oh, the excitement stuff for the planet Uranus. Okay, so tell me, if you were watching this, did I confuse you or did that help? I want to know. And if you are out there, let's see, a couple of people said yes to their chart. So let's do Mimi's real quick. Let me go over here and change to Mimi's chart. Mimi is under E. Isn't it E? Oh, there you are. I think it does good to see other charts. Let me go back to Be Live and share my screen again. Okay, go back to Be Live, put it in the broadcast. It's a little bit clunky to do this, I'll tell you. And I'm going to put it up solo, and I'm going to go back over here, raise it up a bit so you can see it. Maybe I should unzoom it a bit. Okay. So here in Mimi's chart, again, the first thing as an astrologer, I'm looking at the overall chart. So I'm looking in here at the birth chart, just getting the lay of the land. Where is it sitting? The sun for her in Leo, sitting in the 5th house, very Debbie-like. And then I'm looking at some of the other things. There's her destiny over here in Sagittarius. That's interesting because that means that Mimi's North Node or destiny is sitting where Debbie's rising sign is. There's a reason the two of them met. I love that. I love to be able to see that. And someday we'll talk more about that too. So Mimi, rising sign AC, we're looking right here at the AC at 23 degrees, 33 minutes of Aries. And that is her entry point into the world, into the 1st house. But look at this. There's only 4 or 5 degrees left. Actually 7 degrees left here from her rising sign to the sign of Taurus. And most of her 1st house is in the sign of Taurus. So there's a bit of a duality in her I am house. And you're going to find that often with people. Even in your own chart, you're going to see that it sits somewhere in between. So there's 2 parts of your personality. One part is definitely your viewpoint as seen by the rising sign or the ascendant, and the second would be by the sign that takes up the other part of the chart. So Aries, here she is, a self-starter. She's likely in business for herself. She loves the idea of being independent and living life on her own terms. But here's the other part of her, Taurus energy, which is very sensual and is very home centered, is very much creative. It's ruled by Venus. So here I would say is an interesting entryway for me to wonder, I wonder if she's an artist and if she works at home, because we've got this kind of home centered thing here. And I could get more of that information from other places in her chart. You could see in Mimi's chart, based on how I do everything, she really doesn't have any empty houses, right? All of her houses have something in it, even if it's just minor. This is a new piece I'm using. I haven't even really figured it out yet, called Sedna. And Sedna for her is just at, looks like 26 degrees of Aries in her 1st house. And again, I'm not even going to tell you what that means because I have no idea. But I'm starting to cue into more and more of the feminine goddesses and where they are in people's charts. So that's that chart. Let's see if I can get another. Can I do that from here? No, I can't do it from here, but from here, see, Natasha, I think you said it would be okay if I used your chart. And Venter, UV. Oh, you're going to be in a different. Nope, there you are. Go. Okay, I'm going to check in with you guys really quickly. Tell me if you are seeing the charts change. Debbie, Rebecca, yes. Okay, great. So you guys are getting help. Good, good, good. Um, Debbie says, I'm driving. I can't watch. I'll have to listen later. Yeah, please do, Debbie. Willa, what, Debbie? What? Maybe I'm moving near Miami? Near Mimi, not Miami, Mimi. Woohoo, Tennessee. Willa, I need to get my chart. Mimi, yep, at home artist. There you go. So, okay, I can see that you guys are seeing a different chart. So I'm going to go back over here. This is Natasha's chart. And Natasha is a Cancer. Here's the sign here, Cancer. This is the sun. She's a Jupiter sun conjunction. So we could see that. And she also has a Cancer rising sign. She's what we would call a double Cancer, right? Double meaning the sun and rising sign. Some people are triple a sign. They have the moon, the sun, and the rising in the same sign. That gives you, I mean, like they are the embodiment of that sign. And so we could almost characterize Natasha as the embodiment of the water sign Cancer if it weren't for this little conflict up here with the moon in Aries that sometimes brings out parts of her personality that are at odds with the more subtle emotional energies of Cancer. So we have Aries, which is conflict and assertion and assertiveness, and it's in conflict with it can become in conflict with the more watery energies in Cancer. So she can get her hackles up, right? That's just a part of who she is. So for you, Natasha, rising sign here in Cancer, everything moving around in this direction. So right now, because a lot of the energy of the planets are between Sagittarius and Gemini. So for you, for all of us, it puts the load of the transiting planets kind of skewed to one side or the other of a chart. Meaning it could be up above, could be down below, could be to the left, could be to the right. Hers is kind of diagonal between a couple of the hemispheres, and you can see all of the planets transiting through here. Big focus for you right now, Natasha, is on the 10th house of career. It's where the sun is transiting through, Chiron is transiting, Neptune and Mercury are in a conjunction right at your midheaven. There may be some confusion, some doubts going through your mind about what you do, how you do what you do, if you should continue doing what you do. And a lot of that is up in the air for you right now. You can just tell that because of the force of the energies that are moving through the 10th house of profession or authority, how you claim what you do in the world. So for you, assignment, Uranus moving through your 11th house, get some clarity around your hopes and your dreams. What is your vision for you? And stick with this vision for a moment. Just dare to dream the dream. And what would it look like to manifest your dream? Because that is how you would apply the energies to what comes next with or what goes on with the planets that are transiting through your 10th house of career. All right. So any questions? Questions. I love questions. Let me stop sharing. Oh, I never left the screen, did I? Or maybe I did. Oh, I stopped sharing. That's why. Oh, God, I'm losing it. All right, guys. Patricia, my sister, has 5 planets in Libra. She has Sun in Libra. Vanita is late, but here. Good, good. Debbie Hedden, much love, 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 love. Okay, so Debbie says, there's definitely a reason I met Mimi. She helped bring me back to the me I used to be. The me I used to be. I love that. Debbie says, me too, Willa. What I have is different in its appearance. Okay. So Debbie, tell me more about that. What are you saying? I got to go back to Willa. I need to get my chart. LOL. Okay. Yeah. If you guys who are listening to me today want me to do your natal chart, and you're already on my mailing list, most of you already are on my mailing list, I would bet. Go send me off an email and I'm going to type it in here for you. So Debbie, Willa, I think you ladies are already on my mailing list. So go to livingastrology111@gmail.com and tell me that you want your natal astrology chart. And the reason I'm saying that is if you try to go to my website right now and get your free chart, it's going to try to add, it may not let you do it because you're already on the mailing list. So email me separately and say, I want my natal chart. Everybody should have their natal chart, at least the natal chart. And become a member of the Living Astrology Academy. In there, I'm showing people how to develop their own chart and develop or how to get access to their own chart, what to check, what not to check. And you can find that on my Living Astrology Academy. Okay. Any questions? Natasha, yes, all you are speaking. Debbie says, thank you. You're welcome. And interested in knowing a bit more about 2 signs in 1 house. Almost everybody is going to have that, Mimi. What becomes even more interested is when some people, and I noticed this in Natasha's 11th house, is that it starts in 1 sign. In her case, it started in Aries. Her 11th house starts in Aries. Then the entire sign of Taurus is in that house. And then just a wee bit of Gemini is in her 11th house. That's called an intercepted sign. And that changes fundamentally how we're going to look at that house and how it plays out in the world. So Taurus intercepted in her 11th house is all about manifesting and issues with manifesting what you want, manifesting what you desire. And it might mean that you get a good start at it and then something changes. And so you've got to learn how to stay steadfast, as Taurus would, focused on what it is that the dream is, what is it you desire, until it comes into manifestation. You can't just say, oh yeah, I'm excited, I want that, and then lose focus on it. So for you, Natasha, you have to have more focus, more staying power on what it is that you wish or what it is that you desire, right? Okay. Intercepted houses, right? That's exactly what that's called. Exactly, an intercepted house. And the sign that's intercepted is Taurus. All right. So I hope you guys got my Gmail address here, and I'm going to hide that. And any other questions that people have? Willa says, thanks. Oh, that is me, Natasha said. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, 2 signs in 1 house. This is so common, right? That unless you use the equal house, well, I don't even know if you would do it that way. There's a kind of astrology where they use the whole house system. So they set it up so that 1 sign is in the whole house. I don't know that works very well. I like the system I use because I think it adds depth and texture to who you are, right? So for instance, my first house begins in Cancer at the 26th degree. So it's late Cancer. And then the rest of my first house is in Leo. That certainly describes 2 parts of my life, right? The struggle to get seen and heard and recognized and do what I want to out in the world, but also the family part of me, the crab part of me that wants to hide and be invisible, right? That's much more descriptive rather than just putting all of Cancer in my first house. So it makes sense to me to have the houses the way they are in the system that I use. Alex, good morning. Have fun with new houses. Yeah. So that gives you guys an idea of the working parts of your chart. And of course, that's only the beginning of the story, right? The rest is now, how do I interpret all of that stuff, right? I did a little bit of interpretation here just so you could see, from my perspective as an astrologer, what it is that I'm looking at, how it is I see what I see. And yet there's so much more to it than that, right? Because I have to also take into consideration all the relationships of the planets and how they are the rulers, the natural rulers of those houses and where they are. So it becomes a very complex subject, as any language that you go to learn becomes complex, right? You got to know how to conjugate the verbs. You got to know what order to put the words in. You got to know how those words play out differently. In English, how many words do we have, that mean the same thing? Same thing in other languages. And, lots of subtleties. And that is the part, that's the art part of being an astrologer, is how do I put all of that together into a coherent story that's helpful and gets you where you want, the knowledge that you want about yourself. All right. Let me just say something here really quickly. Some of you listen to this show on Blog Talk Radio. So if you're listening to this later on Blog Talk Radio, I would suggest, because you won't be able to see because it's radio, what it was that I was showing people. So I would suggest that you find the YouTube video of this broadcast on my homepage at living-astrology.com, living hyphen or dash, the middle, hyphen.com, living-astrology.com, forgive me. And scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, and there's the video for today. You may want to watch the video so that you can see what I was pointing to in the chart. All right, that is it for me today. Well, let's do something really quickly. Let's pull a card for the week. And I'm using Colette Baron Reed's Wisdom of the Oracle, right? Isn't she pretty? I love this deck. Colette Baron Reed is going to be on the cruise that Debbie and I are going on next week. And I'm excited to get to meet her and John Holland. Should be exciting since I use her cards every day, just about in some way, shape, or form. So now I'm thinking of a card that is going to represent the energy overall for us for this week. It's a jumping card. It is the card Yang. It is number 1, isn't it? Yep, it's the number 1. Yang. 2 hands coming out from the on high. Now, I have no clue whether this card is upside down or correct upside or right side up, because it decided to fly all around. So my guess is we need to know everything there is to know about the card Yang. So I will read the whole thing. I'm going to drink some water first. You are leaking. Oh my gosh. Okay. Deal with that in a minute. Yang, essential meanings, is the masculine principle of movement and creative activity and the power to make things happen, taking action. That's an interesting card for us in a week where the new moon is in Aries, the masculine expression of action. Love it. The oracle's message says Yang represents the power of action, the energies that propel the world forward and manifesting thought and desire into concrete form. Now is the perfect time to act, for you can easily build momentum and make headway. What you want will come to fruition if you proceed confidently. This card signifies new life and is a sure sign that obstacles have been overcome. There is no reason to hesitate. You are the shaper of your destiny now. The relationship message says, circumstances are supporting action on your part. It's okay to make the first move. Trust that you will quickly know where you stand. In matters of the heart, there is movement toward your highest good. So go forth with assurance. Passion is in the air, and now is the time to dance to the tune of love. Take the lead. Prosperity message says, projects, partnerships, and all matters relating to your business are out of the obstacle phase and onto the make it happen phase. Now is the time to stake your claim and get things done. While you can expect to be busier than usual, this card tells you that you have all the energy and vitality you need to accomplish your goals. Abundance is waiting for you to claim it. Now, because it was hard to tell if that was really going to be an upside down card or not, I'm going to read the protection message, because maybe for some of you it has something to do with watching out for something. So the protection message says, be mindful of the tendency toward impulsive action, overconfidence, and aggressive behavior. Think before you act, lest you find yourself in a situation that will lead to uncomfortable consequences. Be sure you really want what you're chasing after, because you might be sorry when you get it. The appearance of this card isn't cause for fear, for life is all about learning lessons. Practice temperance, diplomacy, and thoughtful consideration before making a move. I think that's a great card. A great card for us, Yang. Oops, camera's in a different place here today. There we go, Yang. Okay. Should we choose an animal to go with us? I kind of like that idea too. Might as well. Still have a couple minutes before it's 9. So I'm going to pull an animal card that is also going to be a guide for us on our. I see people are already requesting their natal charts. I love it. You guys are such good listeners. And okay. Bat. This is too funny. So I'm looking at this card. I see it face up, right? Bat, but it's really in protection because bats hang upside down. So bat is our spirit animal for the week, and it is a rebirth is assured. So I'm going to read the bat, which is card number 5. And I'm going to read the protection message because literally, like I said, I pulled it this way. I saw him straight up, but the words were upside down and went, So bat in protection. So that says, what are you refusing to let die? Bat spirit is gently nudging you to let go of your need to cling to the familiar story that has already run its course. A new story is poised and ready to be born. Some dreams were only meant to last for a moment in time. Sometimes they were only there to slow you down as you recalibrated in preparation for the new life that will give you what you really want. Perhaps you need to grieve as you say goodbye to something. At least you're saying goodbye to its familiar form. Perhaps you must let go of a part of you that must die so you can be reborn. This temporary time in the dark doesn't have to be scary or sad, though. Bat Spirit gives you her powers of perception and awareness as you learn to listen deeply and navigate these unknown caves of temporary emptiness. You will emerge with a new perspective, and Bat Spirit will witness your giving birth to the life that matches the intentions and desires of your heart and soul. That sounds pretty cool. It sounds really good to me. You know why? Because we're in the closing phase of a moon cycle, right? We're going into this last week of the new moon in Pisces that began March 6th. And here we are looking at April 5th, the new moon in Aries. So we are, in a way, in the dying phase of a moon cycle. And as that is dying or preparing for birthing, what is it that we can let go of? And what is it that we can move forward to as the moon becomes new on Friday? All right. That's it for me today, guys. Debbie Hedden says the cards are perfect. Thank you. Quite helpful. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, good, good, good. All right, guys. Take care. Have a wonderful day. I will see you again tomorrow morning right here, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. East Coast time. Much love. Mwah. Bye for now.